Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Winter Rabbit by Absurdist Productions.
Now, Winter Rabbit is coming to crowdfunding here in the very near future, so make sure to check out the link down below in the description of this video after you watch it to get all the details from the campaign page. Now, this particular game, Winter Rabbit, centers around Cherokee Nation and their folklore around the Winter Rabbit, which is a character that is mischievous and does a lot of stealing and takes away resources from the people. And so this is a game in which you and the other players are going to be going up against the Winter Rabbit in the sorts, because this is a semi-cooperative game in which you and the other players have to semi-work together to try and get the resources that you need to be prepared for winter. And if you do that, then it's going to be up to the points that you and the other players have accumulated throughout the course of the game to determine who is the ultimate winner, the person who most prepared for winter. And so that's the idea with this game, with some clever use of hidden worker placement in this game. Let's go down to the table where I'll show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Winter Rabbit on the table. Let me show you all about this hidden worker placement game about gathering your resources to prepare for winter. Now, I want to make sure you understand everything you see here is prototype, so the final artwork, components, maybe even some of the rules might change once it's released from crowdfunding. That being said, what you have here for components, you've got a central board where you're going to be doing pretty much all the actions throughout the course of the game. Different locations where you'll be putting your workers. You've got lots of cards in this game. You got cards that are going to be villager cards that you are going to gain specific benefits for yourself if you complete them. You've got story cards over here on the right side, and you have task cards that you'll be completing, and the cards that are available to you to complete are dependent upon the other players, your opponents, through the game. You also have lots of resources. You've got something that looks like bamboo, but it's obviously there's no bamboo. This is taking place in the United States native area. You've got wood, tulips, flowers, corn, meat, and stone in this game. And then you also have workers, which are going to be these tokens right here. They'll all be in this bag, except you'll get an extra one in the second round. But anyhow, they'll look like this. They'll be hidden on the backside as to what worker that is. But on the underside, you'll see that this is for the possum player. And so that's the workers in this game. Now, you have a season marker too that keeps track of what season it is, and this game is going to be played over the course of 4 seasons, 4 rounds. Starting with the first player, which is going to be determined by whoever the oldest player is. They get to choose who the first player is, and each player is going to be a certain type of animal, such as a deer, a bear, a wolf, otter, terrapin, and possum. Now you'll see here that as you are depicted by this animal, as well as the color, this is kind of like a blue-green color here, it's going to tell you what you can do on your turn, and a turn is broken up into 3 phases. You've got morning phase, midday, and evening. You also are going to start with a number of resources, in this case 2 corn, which will be placed on these baskets over here, and at the beginning of the game you can only hold 6 resources because you have 6 baskets. You do get a special ability that is specific to your character, and for the deer in this case, you can turn 1 corn into one of those reeds that I showed you. You also are going to start with one of your own workers on this spot at the beginning of every season, and you'll keep that right here on this spot. Now, on your turn, again, you will do the morning phase, which is to place out a worker. And you could place the one that's on your board that you start at the beginning of every season with, or you can draw at random from the bag. Now, what's going to be in the bag are all the other tokens that you have, because there are going to be 4 tokens for each player in the game. Again, 1 is on your board, 1 is right here in this stack that you'll earn in the second season. The other 2 are going to be in the bag. In addition to the ones that are yours and the other players, there are going to be Winter Rabbit tokens, and we'll come back to this here in just a minute. But let's say that I reach into the bag and I pull out one of my own workers. That's great. Now, I won't show this to anybody. I'll keep it hidden, but I will be placing it somewhere on one of the locations face down so that nobody knows what it is except for me. And perhaps maybe I place it here on the cornfield. Now, nothing's going to happen immediately, but if this fills up with another worker and all of the spots in this section have things in them, whether that be workers or these trees, which we'll come back to the trees here in just a second and what they do, but that's going to activate production for this specific location. We'll reveal all the workers that are face down there, and anybody who has a worker in this area, they're going to receive one of the resource just because they're present there. And then you'll get one additional one for each worker that you have there. So in this case, I'll get one because I'm there, I'm the deer player, but then I'll get another one because I have a worker there. Had I had this one being a worker for me as well, then I would get 3. 1 for being there present, and then 2 because I have 2 workers there. That's how the resource production is going to work in this case. Unless one of those happened to be a winter rabbit. Let's say that another player had placed a winter rabbit here and it's time to reveal, and oh, I've gotten tricked by the winter rabbit. Anytime a winter rabbit shows up, no one at that location receives any resources. Instead, they're going to go to the winter rabbit's burrow over here. You'll count how many different workers are over here, whether they're winter rabbit or anyone else for that matter, and that's the number of resources that you're going to place in the rabbit's burrow in the center of the board. So that's how the winter rabbit is mischievous and messes with the other players in the game. Now, you could draw one of the other player's tokens, and more than likely that's what's going to be happening throughout the course of the game, and you are going to, again, pick a location for that player's worker to go, but they don't know that you're placing their worker. So there's a way to kind of, again, mess with the other players by putting them in spots that may not be optimal for whatever their strategy might be. Now, if a location is completely filled up, like you see here with revealed workers, you can still go to that location by taking one of these trees. You're basically clearing land, chopping down trees to make more room for that resource to be had, and you will immediately gain one of those resources, and you can show that it's the other player's worker there, not my own, but you do have to pay a cost when you do this. You're going to take the tree token, and you're going to flip it over to show that it's been chopped down, and this is going to take up one of your spots, one of your baskets on your board, and it's just going to clog up your board. Now, there is a way to get rid of this, and I'll show it to you here in just a second, but if a location has already produced, you can still get the resources by chopping down the tree to get that resource. Now, that is the first thing that you do in the morning phase, is placing out a worker. The second part of your turn is the midday phase, where you have to choose one of the 4 available options to you. You could place a second worker, which is exactly like we just talked about, placing the first worker, or you can build any of the 4 village cards, which are going to be these cards that are down here, and I know you can't really see them, so I'm going to bring them up a little bit to show you what they might look like. Now, again, you can build any of these cards, and you can build more than one if you can afford it. They're going to award you a certain number of points listed here in the top left, a cost here with your resources, and then they'll give you an ongoing benefit throughout the course of the game. This river card gives you an extra basket that you can use, so now you have 7 baskets instead of 6. And then once per turn, you could take one of those trees that are on your baskets and put it back out here on the board in any spot that you want. So that's pretty nice. The river card is pretty nice. Plus, it gives you 3 points. Here's another example here. The council house is only going to give you 1 point. It's going to give you 3 baskets to use in an immediate one-time use. You may play a second task card now and each season. We'll come back to what task cards are. Now, I do want to point out this one in particular does have that tree stump icon on it. And what that means is, in order to build this card, not only do you need a stone, but you're going to have to take a tree somewhere on the board and turn it over to a tree stump, putting it in one of your baskets. So that's what that is asking you to do. There are also cards that are going to allow you to have an extra spot for a worker at the start of each season. So instead of only getting the 1 worker to use that you definitely know is yours, you will have space for an extra one. So now you know that you'll be able to put out 2 of your workers. You'll have control over 2 of your workers. That's pretty nice. Now, That's one of the options you can do on your turn, but another one is to complete tasks. And this is super important because this is a semi-cooperative game. And what that means is that by the end of the game, you'll want to make sure that all three of these tracks are all the way down to the far end where there's sevens. Otherwise, nobody wins the game because you all didn't work together to prepare yourselves for winter. Now, this is going to incorporate the task cards, which you'll have some of these dealt to you at the beginning of the game, and each season you'll be picking one, or if you're playing in a lower player count game, two cards to have for the other players, your opponents, to complete. What these are going to do, again, you'll have resources that you'll need in order to complete it. You'll get a certain number of victory points when you pay those resources, and you'll advance one spot on the track that's represented right here. So in this case, it's this red track in the middle, moving the marker one space forward. Now, your opponent who put out this task card for you to complete, they're going to get a benefit every time anybody completes the task. In this case, they'll receive one meat. And that's how all these cards work. And you'll be selecting new task cards for everybody to use in each season. So that's how you complete the semi-cooperative part of the game. The last thing that you could do during your midday phase is to restore land, and you'll pay any one resource to be able to take one of those tree stumps that's on your player board, putting it back out on one of the worker spots in the center of the board. The last thing that you will do at the end of your turn, the evening phase, is that you may choose one of the two options here, either telling a story or swapping a resource. Swapping a resource is self-explanatory. You're just going to swap any one resource for another resource. Or you could tell a story, which are going to be these cards over here on this side of the board. They all cost the same, paying any three resources to be able to read the flavor text that's right here. And this is more than just flavor text. This is part of the culture of this game, the Cherokee Tribe culture that is this game is built upon. You will get some of that background information by reading these stories that are on these story cards, but there will be either an ongoing ability that you'll leave this card out here in the center until another green card, as you can see, this is a green tortoise card, replaces it. In this case, when you place a second worker, you gain a victory point, so some incentive to be placing a second worker on your turn. Or it is an immediate benefit to whoever paid the three resources to be able to do this card. And again, they give you 3 points whenever you complete them. So that's what a turn looks like, but there's one other thing that I do think is important for you to understand, and that is the winter rabbit. Now, I mentioned the winter rabbit is mischievous, and it's going to be taking resources whenever it sneaks into a location, but you can also go to the winter rabbit's burrow as your movement for the turn. When you pull out a worker, you could place it on one of the two spots, and whenever that spot fills up, so let's get another worker here to fill that up with, then you will reveal, and whoever is at that location is going to take turns taking from the rabbit's burrow, starting with whoever placed on the number 1. If it happens to be that the same person takes up both spots, then they get everything that's in the winner's burrow. However, if you got tricked because some other player placed a winter rabbit at the rabbit's burrow, then the winter rabbit steals everything, and all those resources go back to the supply. That's the gist of the game. In the second season, everybody's going to receive one extra worker. In the third season, there will be another winter rabbit added to the bag. And then in the fourth and final season, you're going to add these 4 frost tokens to the bag. When they're drawn, you'll just simply set it off to the side. You'll draw another token, but once the 4th token is pulled from the bag, that immediately ends the game because winter has arrived. You'll need to make sure that you've gotten to the end of the tracks on all 3 of these tracks right here, otherwise all players lose. If you do get to the end of the track on all 3 of these, then you'll see who has the most points, and that person will be the winner. That is how you play Winter Rabbit. Now let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Winter Rabbit from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, first thing I want to talk to you about is the theme with this one. You know, it's obviously got this agricultural theme to it of trying to get resources to prepare for winter. But beyond that, it has the Cherokee Tribe culture attached to it, right? Like this is Native American through and through with this, from the designer to the illustration to even the publisher here has ties to Native American tribes. And so living in Oklahoma, that's something that's super important. I thought we should probably spend some time talking about that. What did you think about that with the history and the culture that's with this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a really good job tying it into a game without it being so, overwhelming, a learning game.
Right,
But it
yeah.
does, you definitely learn something about the traditions and things like that. So I think they did a good job in incorporating it, but still, it does feel like a first American game.
Right. Yes, and I think it's something that if you are native, that would be something that you would probably take a lot of pride in, seeing this out in the gaming hobby
Yeah.
and seeing how they've incorporated the culture into the mechanics of the game. Because you've got the idea here of this game, using hidden workers that you're drawing out of the bag, and the winter rabbit is one of those types of workers, but it's used in a mischievous way, which is what the winter rabbit's all about.
Yeah.
Creating kind of chaos in the game. What did you think about that? Being able to draw a worker, and if it's the winter rabbit, you can create a little bit of chaos with that.
Yeah, I think it took me a little bit of time to figure out how to use that strategy, but once you kind of figure it out, it is a good strategy to have in the game. So,
And it's a lot of fun too, I
Yeah.
feel like, because everything's hidden. You don't know who's going where. You kind of have a little bit of an idea, seeing what cards they might be working towards and what their player ability leans itself towards. Kind of gives you some clues. But for the most part, everything is hidden until something fills up and then you reveal. And it's kind of like that, yeah, I wasn't thinking you would do that,
Yeah.
or, I knew what you were doing kind of moments. And so that's a lot of fun. And it happens several times throughout a round when each location fills up. Getting those resources is not always straightforward, which I find to be very fun with this game.
Yeah.
What do you think about the other aspects of the game? Like the using the resources to fulfill the cards and getting your points, but also needing to keep that track that everybody is working towards, getting all the way to the end of the track before the end of the game. What was that like for you?
I mean, it's definitely a type of game that I like, where you're collecting resources and using them to complete objectives. So I think it's something you'll see in other games. It's relatable. It's easy
Yeah.
to figure out. And then the main objectives help with that cooperative part of it. And I think I did kind of let Lance focus on that a little
Do
bit
more of the
more.
heavy lifting?
than
Yeah.
I was. But I think that's where you can play with the gamer and a non-gamer, because the non-gamer can kind of focus on their part of the game, and the gamer, if they're wanting to make sure everyone's enjoying it, can kind of head up other parts of it.
Well, there's two things about that I think are really interesting. The one is how many different ways you can get points in this game, because there's lots of ways, right? Like, you can get it through all the three different types of cards, and that means that there's so many things you can do with your resources. Like those villager cards are going to be some things that give you extra benefits throughout the course of the game, and so there's a benefit to that. They don't pay out as many points, but you're getting something extra with it. Or the story cards have like a special ability tied into those as well, and they always give you 3 points. The task cards are the things that help out the most with the semi-cooperative part of the game. So you definitely have to go into that a little bit, but they also give you points too, which I think is the other interesting part with this game, because so many semi-cooperative games, I feel like, are like, you've got to make a choice. You're either doing this thing that helps the collective, or you're doing this thing that helps only yourself. And that's a really tough line to balance out. This game is unique, I feel like, in that you do the semi-cooperative collective thing, but you're also getting something for yourself too in and of it. And then not only that, but the other person's also getting something too, because they're the one who gave you that task card to work towards. So that's an interesting concept of balancing that act out of, what cards to complete to get your points in this game. I thought that was pretty interesting, pretty fun with this one. I like that, it's a 4-round game, 4-season. The rounds are 4 seasons, and each season adds something new. Like, you get a new worker to add, the winter rabbit gets a new worker to wrap, and then you talk about that last season with the frost, because you don't know when that season's going to come to an end, right? It's just whatever you pull out of the bag, and once that 4th frost token comes out, that's it. That's the end of the game. What do you think about that aspect of it, that the game can end like that? I mean, not like that necessarily, because in the third one.
It depends on how well you're doing.
Yeah.
if you're wanting it to end or not. But it does add a little bit of suspense to it.
I think that's the right word for it, right? Because it adds that tension, and there's bound to be the the tension of, I need there to be one more turn. I need to go one more time. Don't draw that frost token so I can do that last thing to get my last extra points in. Or maybe, you know, it's the case of you need that one last thing on the collective track. Otherwise, we're all going to lose. So, you know, that's just an interesting concept there with that. So, one that you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
Yeah, I think it's a good one to play with non-gamers. I think it's a good bridge game to kind of get non-gamers and gamers playing together.
Yeah, I think the rules are fairly straightforward with this one. I think it's a pretty good, like you said, bridge towards maybe resource management, but it's got that interesting aspect of hidden worker placement, which is something you don't see a whole lot in a lot of games. So. The game is Winter Rabbit from Absurdist Productions. It is coming to crowdfunding here in the very near future, so make sure to check out the link down below in the description of this video now that you've watched it. And while you're down there, make sure to leave us some comments.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.